The programmatic television space is evolving now, both from the buy and sell side. I think we've seen a lot of innovation on the agency side. They've spent a lot of time developing proprietary data sets and trying to apply the level of data, the amount of data points that go into targeting in online, and apply that to television. They know that moving beyond basic age and gender is critical to the future of their business and delivering on all of the key performance indicators for their clients. So they're trying to find ways to be smarter about that. They've done a lot of work to develop their own data, but also there are these big pools of data out there that they want to use to buy smarter. That doesn't necessarily need to buy cheaper. I think fundamentally they're willing to pay a premium in some places if they can make a better connection. It's that right person that's going to buy the product, going to use the service, and they can make a bigger impact with the dollar they spend. So on the other side, the inventory companies, the media companies, yeah, I mean, there's this level of protectionism. They have a finite supply, and there's typically a lot of demand out there. But I think you've heard a lot of talk about fragmentation. There are so many channels. There is so much inventory out there. Not to say that it's remnant inventory, because TV inventory fundamentally is premium, wherever it is, whenever it is. But there are ways to now surface greater value in some of that inventory, and data about your audience can do that. So you may have a network that is selling on traditional age and gender. They can only go so far on that based on their reach, the amount of impressions and GRPs they deliver. But you take a look a few levels deeper, income, education, purchasing behavior, you could surface a much greater value for that inventory, and packaged up with other audiences like that across other networks, it becomes inherently more valuable to the agency. So there is an ability to sell it that way. I think that there is a lot of confusion out there about what's addressable. Is it a household addressable impression? Is it an addressable audience? So we go down kind of two parallel paths. What we're doing mostly right now is addressable audiences, and that's really finding the highest indices for a particular objective on programming at the network, day, and day part level. So we apply this data to find a pool of viewers that are most likely to fall into a bucket of income, of education, of purchasing behavior, and then buy against a pool of inventory that meets those indices, meets that viewer profile. I think on the other side, in a parallel path that we're pursuing, we are working on releasing this later this year, is true household addressability. Two people live next door to each other, watch the same program, and are served different ads based on the attributes of their household. So right now, we use a blend of the Nielsen panel-based methodology, which is people, and then set-top box data from Rentrack that is more at the household level, and do a correlation between those two to develop a consumer profile that fits those attributes beyond just age and gender. And then, as I said, target inventory that delivers that. The household addressable, it's not very well scaled yet, and there's just not a lot of continuity across the industry in the way people segment audiences and then verify them. So we're working with all of the partners behind that data, the infrastructure piece, to be able to set up a marketplace that is scalable, and you'll see something from us probably later this year. We've developed a strategic partnership with Magna. They have been with us from the very early stages with our online video platform, doing ad serving and using our programmatic platform, buying into our marketplaces, but also establishing direct relationships with premium publishers, really to trade on data. So we've integrated their proprietary data set, and they're now leveraging that data that they've spent a lot of time and money developing to target and buy and optimize in a much smarter way in a proprietary fashion to them and for their clients. So now it's an extension of that. It's a natural evolution. They have this really valuable data set that they've developed. It's got a lot of similarities to data that's available with television audiences. So now it's a much more powerful proposition to say, I have this data warehoused in a platform. I'm going to start using it to now target and better understand the lion's share of my investments. Online video is important, growing incredibly fast, but still overall a much smaller percentage of the total spend that they do globally. So now trying to take that same digital targeting methodology and process and apply it to the way they buy TV. At a top level, it's not exclusive in the work that we're doing. We're doing similar work with other agencies in the way that we are integrating their proprietary data and that particular application that is exclusive to them. And I think that's an important thing to think about with a software company, a technology company, is that we are developing solutions that work for an individual client. So the baseline platform can be applicable to other holding companies, but each individual engagement is unique to that agency. Publisher adoption of programmatic is depending on what source you're talking to, is a little bit slower. And again, I think there's this notion of supply and demand. There is a certain supply that's out there, and demand typically outpaces that. Television spending grows every single year, no matter what happens with total viewership, and it's getting more and more fragmented. But I think as some of these media owners get bigger and bigger and have kind of a larger part of the spectrum, it's not just one top-tier network. They may own 7 or 8 networks, and they've got this large pool of inventory. There are pieces of it that they need to find more efficient ways to sell it, and frankly, more efficient ways to package it. So with a platform like ours, there are also tools they can use, same way a buyer is. How can I find that auto intender and package that up and get a more premium rate for it from an advertiser? I need a platform to bring all this data into one place to do that. So slower adoption, but they are coming along. I think there are some groups that are very progressive and much more apt to work with us, others that are dipping their toe in the water, slowly moving along. Some want to work in, we call a private marketplace, others are comfortable working in a public marketplace.